Welcome to Front Up. I'm your host, Jason Bridges, and we are very lucky to have SarahAlger with us today. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Sarah.
Good to see you.
Have you recovered from Monday night's town meeting?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I saw you.
Special town meeting.
Special town meeting. I think I saw you the next morning, and I asked you, did you feel sore? Was it is it an exercise?
No, it isn't.
No?
No. I mean, people do ask me, how do you stand up there for so long?
Yeah.
But it's not hard.
How many years have you been our Madam Moderator?
Well, I was elected in 1998. No, I was elected in 1997. So I think this is 21 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's, how many meetings is that? That's probably 30? We don't always have a special town meeting,
yeah,
but
I don't know. I haven't ever counted, but more than 30, I would think.
that's a lot of time sitting up there.
Yeah, it is.
Standing up
Yeah,
there.
standing up there.
Yeah.
And some meetings are longer than others.
Mhm.
You know, like we've done an annual in a day, but we've also had them go 4 nights.
Wow.
But, yeah.
So this past Monday, special town meeting, when it was finished, when you walked away, what were you thinking?
I was thinking, I'm really surprised that this happened in a day.
Really?
Yeah, well, because with 27 articles,
Mhm.
I wasn't really sure how long it was going to take. Some of the articles seemed like they could be controversial and take more time than they actually did. And then I was, I guess, slightly surprised that some of the financial articles weren't called, like the fire station.
Right, the 3 appropriations weren't called.
Weren't called.
Right. But that'll be on
That's
the ballot.
a ballot question, so of course people, I think, in some ways let things go at town meeting and decide that they're going to vote
Mhm.
their conscience at the ballot. We've seen that. The Matticat sewer, I think,
Right.
was an example of where that happened. And I think the town's in a very tough position on those, in those situations, because they can't really politic to get the vote out, whereas people in opposition can put together kind of a good campaign not to, to drum up their votes. And the town can't really counter that, and it's tough, I think. It's tough to advocate for your position.
I learned that when I was public outreach manager, certain things I would put on the website for appropriations, you'd be very careful. You can't say, please vote yes on this,
Right.
when that's kind of what you want. You're, say, a firefighter. You like a new building. Why can't I say, please vote for this? But you're a public employee. You can't.
You can't.
Right. That is illegal. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that you were surprised about? Anything with the first 3 articles that dealt with marijuana?
No, I mean, I am never surprised at how well behaved our voters are. I mean, I know in other communities these discussions have really gotten out of hand, and
Mhm.
I was a little concerned that it might turn a little rowdy, but it didn't. I think people really did stick to the topic. They discussed what was relevant, and then they voted, and so it worked out pretty well. It was great to have the NHA and NHS political club there,
Yeah.
the young
Mhm.
voters of the future, the 17, 18-year-olds that are still in school but are interested. That's the future of town government right there, so
Mhm.
it was great to see such a good turnout on their part.
I was really excited that they were there as well. I met with them the next day to do a review
Oh, you
of
did?
the town meeting. and
What did they think?
They had some really, really good questions.
Oh, good.
Some of them are very technical. It's their first town meeting.
Right.
They understand they're really confused or had questions about the negative recommendation. So if you were voting for it, you were voting for it to not pass.
Oh, right.
Right.
That is hard, and we don't do it very often.
Mhm.
So that was an unusual situation that they got to see.
Mm-hmm.
I forget when we started just always having positive motions, but it's been within the last 20 years that happened.
Right. Now you said we have a pretty tame crowd. Like no one's yelling out a turn for the most part.
For the most part.
Does that happen in other towns? I'm sure you talk to other moderators and.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a member of the Mass Moderators
Okay.
Association, and we have a gavel hotline, email thing.
Really?
Oh, yeah. That's pretty active. So, and I follow that, and I do see that in other towns, I think the voters are a little rowdier. I mean, we've had our moments, and, I just try to keep a handle on it, as you know.
Is there any meetings that you've had in your 21 years that have went really long or where it got rowdy? Or you had to pull it back and.
Yeah, I can't really remember them. I mean, the meeting that I remember thinking, I'm never doing this again, was we had like an August meeting one summer on beach, and the subject was beach driving.
It was a special town meeting?
It was a special town
In
meeting
August?
in August, and it was on beach driving.
Okay.
And a million people showed up. So many people that we had people on the stage. So there was probably 100 people in chairs behind me, as well as the audience in front of me.
That's interesting.
And I really did not love that.
Hmm.
It was not. And at one point, I turned around and one of the audience members was taking my materials off my table because they thought it was like a handout table. And I had to go back and say, I need those, please give them back. That's all my stuff.
Wow.
Yeah,
I've only been attending town meetings for maybe 10, 12 years.
yeah.
I've not seen it that packed before.
Yeah. I think
Was that normal back then?
no, I think that issue
Okay.
particularly had people fired up, so
Mhm.
they came. I
Wow.
can't even really remember what the actual question was, but I think there were going to be limits on being able to drive on the beach.
That would have been a big
And
change.
it brought out a lot of people.
Mhm.
And of course it was summer, so although people always say they're so too busy in the summer to go to town meeting, but they weren't for that particular issue. There was another town meeting where we had a cookout because the issue wasn't all that exciting, but it was an appropriation and we needed a quorum. And we actually had people with grills in that courtyard, that front courtyard of the high school, cooking burgers and dogs.
I think that's a great idea to get people to come in, especially.
It was not 100% successful,
Oh,
but
no?
but
It sounds like a great idea.
it was a good idea.
Especially for a Saturday town meeting, have a cookout, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, the Saturday town meetings, the weather's always so iffy in April.
Mm.
So we do have the food in the cafeteria, but it's
Right.
not the same as the cookout
Right.
concept.
Wasn't there a meeting that went four nights and then had to be pushed later for 2 weeks later? Isn't there some meeting?
Well, we've had some meetings that went 4 nights, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Wow.
Then there was a year where we had to adjourn, and I think we went to May. I mean, it was weeks later. And I want to say it was because we went Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday maybe was the first day of Passover, and Thursday was Holy Thursday, leading into the Easter weekend. It was just one of those really bad timing things. And then we had to adjourn, and then the next weekend was school vacation and Patriots Day, then it was Daffodil, then the town council at the time, it was only one person who attended all the meetings. He had other town meetings in other towns, so suddenly we were like,
So was the annual town meeting spread out over 3 weeks?
it was
ish?
like, yeah, I think we did 2 days in April and then 1 or 2 days sometime in May,
Oh,
early
wow.
May. And I think the May dates were really unpopular because, everybody's gearing up for the
Mhm.
season and
I
it's
think
a
that's
busy
good.
time.
It's a
but-
good story for people to hear because we think, oh, 1 night, 3 hours, it's such a long time to be in
Yeah.
a meeting, but it's not.
No,
it's not
I
that
mean, we
bad.
used to routinely do 4 nights
Mhm.
and then 3 or 4 nights. Now I think it's 2 or 3
Right, or a full day.
or
on
a full
Saturday.
day, right. And then
Now-
we had that one Saturday that kind of bled over a little bit into Monday.
Mhm.
Not much, but
Now, is that because isn't there more articles now? We're in the hundreds. Is there less discussion?
no, I think there were a couple meetings back then when there were 100 and, I think the first meeting I did, there were 120 articles.
Mhm.
So there's always been
A lot.
a lot of articles.
Was there more
Yeah.
discussion back then? And I'm not saying back then, this is only 10, 15, 20
I
years
know.
ago.
I know, when I was a boy, no. No, I don't think so. I don't know why, I don't know, maybe I've gotten more efficient at it. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, we don't. The one thing is, we used to start at 7, I think, and now we start at 6.
Okay.
So maybe that hour makes a difference. Probably does.
Do you think there's ways that we can get more people involved? And you and I have had discussions. I've heard you
Right.
bring up whether it's voting with a kind of electronic
Oh,
thing in your
I know.
hand?
I really wanted to follow up on that electronic voting.
Just
I'm
within the auditorium, not
Within
at
the
home.
auditorium, we're not nowhere near being able to vote from home yet,
Mm-hmm.
although I wouldn't be surprised if that came with technology over time.
And changing laws.
Exactly, you'd have to change all the laws, but other than that, but voting in the hall is being done in Massachusetts. I've gone to a couple of town meetings and seen it in action. We talked about trying to do it here. I think there's probably 3 factors that mitigated against doing it. One was the enormous cost. It's $30,000 for the first night, and then incremental like $15,000 for every night after that. So for a 3-night town meeting, it's like $60,000. There's probably a lot of other things in the town that we could spend $60,000 on.
Right.
The year we were going to have the people come over and do the demonstration, that meeting I didn't do one hand count. So I was thinking, well, that would have been really horrible if they'd been here to do a demonstration and there wasn't even a hand count done.
So we would still do the yay and nay, the voice.
You wouldn't.
You wouldn't do it all. So everything would be.
Everything would
Okay.
be, well, yeah, once you go to the electronic, it's all electronic. And it would take a little longer, like the yay and nay part is quick compared to the electronic voting.
Right.
Where you really save time is all the hand counts.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, if you ever end up with a paper ballot, which we have very rarely done, but we have had
Okay.
happen a couple of times. And those take just forever, as you can imagine.
Wouldn't it change kind of the culture of the town meeting by having those? I kind
Yes.
of like seeing people raise their hand. It even feels, I mean, this is my first year as a selectman being up there.
Right.
Everybody's
People are
seeing
watching
what I'm,
what you're
I'm voting
doing.
on
Oh,
versus
yeah,
just
for sure.
clicking.
Yeah, no, it definitely changes it. And then the other thing was that there's only one company really doing it in Massachusetts. You can't buy the equipment because it becomes obsolete so quickly, so it's not cost effective to buy it and run it yourself. And then they wanted to start dictating when our meeting would be. Well, this week wouldn't work, but you'd have to move to this week, and we can barely schedule a meeting with our own date books out, let alone, some off-island company telling us when our meeting has to be. I just didn't.
Right. And
See
can they get
that.
over here that day? They have to come the day before.
Right,
It's-
and that gets super expensive too when you start factoring in weather. And yeah,
I wonder, we should look at it at least every 5 years, see if
Oh, yeah,
technology's changed, maybe
absolutely.
the prices have come down.
yeah,
Yeah. And so voting at home, I see that all the time on social media. People can't come to the town meetings. They want to. They have kids, they have jobs, life gets in the way.
Right.
Or they feel like they don't really understand all the issues, so they don't feel comfortable voting on something they don't understand.
right.
Should our town meeting, okay, I don't want to make a loaded question, is there another form that could involve more people?
If there is, I'm not aware of it at the moment. I think voting from home eventually will come, but there are a lot of security issues with it, obviously. You want to make sure the people who are voting are actual voters, not Russian bots or.
Do you think we'll ever have a town meeting where 1,500 people show up, 2,000, and we outgrow that auditorium?
I suppose it's possible if there was an issue that was big enough. We have had occasions when we've set up the gym and you can do alternate, additional rooms. You have to have an alternate moderator in that room running it, and there are different ways of doing it.
So everything has to be hand counted then, right? Because you can't yay and nay with 2 rooms,
Right.
right?
Not really. Yeah, you've really got to hand count, I think, at that point.
And that's happened before. We've set up in the gym.
Yeah, but we've never actually ended up having to have voters there.
Okay.
We've come close, but it was not a special, it was an annual, where that whole wing was filled so that we had to have a place for the non-voters, and we had them with audio and visual in the gym. So it can be done.
So you always have little anecdotes that you come up with where everybody's counting votes. You have a story about a gavel, something. Do you already know your stories for the next town meeting? Do they come up the day before? Is it just random?
It's random.
Do you wing it?
I totally wing it.
You wing it?
I totally wing it.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
impressive.
No, well, not usually, but yeah, I totally wing it. I don't really prepare much in way of stories. Or,
Stories, the comedy.
No, it just depends on the flow of the meeting. I mean, some meetings, the people have not been in a good mood. So you're going to kind of read your crowd.
Right. That's good. Know your audience.
Yeah, know your audience.
One of my favorite things that you say is, please don't do that.
I know.
When people start clapping, you always say, please don't do that. I think it should be a hashtag. It's great.
Yeah.
Right? You're trying to bring it in. Let's not get too crazy here.
Right, exactly. But I understand why people want to clap. Someone says something that really resonates
Yeah.
with them. Yeah, it's just a normal reaction. But it does slow things down.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's a slippery slope.
It is a slippery slope.
Mhm.
It is definitely a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else that we need to know about? A misconception on town meetings?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think we got to get used to having a special town meeting every year. I think as many communities have found, they need that mid-year meeting to get the business of the town done. I think that's going to start being more and more of a standard event for us, and we should just get used to it and figure out when we want it to be and kind of build it into our yearly calendar. I know people say that there was this unwritten rule about not having zoning articles in the fall. I don't really know where that came from. And it's obviously not holding. And I don't know. I think we need to just kind of bite the bullet and understand that that's where things are. And things happen quickly, and you've got to be able to react. And if you're always waiting for April, you can lose opportunities. I mean, this moratorium was an example where we
Right.
didn't have a choice if we wanted to have a moratorium.
I see the advantages of a special town meeting. It's also a ton of work for the planning office and town admin. And
Right, of course.
It's a lot of work,
Right.
but it moves things along a little faster.
And I guess that's what administrations in other towns say that still have town meeting, is that town meeting is definitely a labor-intensive thing, and you're always either gearing up for one or the other or recovering from what's just happened
Right.
and then implementing what's been enacted. So it's a big deal, and it's expensive too.
Yep. Well, we'll see you April 3rd at the next annual
Is
town
that when
meeting.
it is? I'll be.
I think it is. Great.
I
Yeah.
haven't looked that far ahead, but I
Yeah.
know I'll be there. So
Great. Well, thank you for coming today. And
yeah,
speaking with us.
thanks. Good to
Sarah.
see you.